We are live in our latest edition of Real Talk, where we put the real in real estate. Now I'm going to be redundant because we also have two awesome people from Real Producers. So this is a really great evening. We've got Julie Altemus, who is the new DFW Real Producers Executive Director. She will be directing all things. There is sky is the limit for Julie, and Lance Dunahoe, who is the co-publisher and co-owner of what is it, the Fort Worth and North Fort Worth editions. That's right. Fantastic. Well, thank you both for joining us this evening. Julie, I see you doing it. You are already checking out the chat. Yeah, we call everybody out on this one. This is going to be a fun time, guys. And for the first show, everybody has a cocktail. So that means
I have my lemon water here.
Your lemon water, yes. So
I have a little herbal tea, but maybe with a little something.
I love it. All right, so it's going to be a great night, guys. And this is very timely because we're all seeing a little bit of a shift in the marketplace. And you guys have a front row view and access to the top agents in our marketplace. So people know that Real Producers magazine, you guys highlight the top 500 in the different marketplaces where your magazine covers. And so this is not a pay to play or anything else. It is production based only. And so we wanted to have you guys on here because you're meeting with these fantastic brain trust across DFW. And so tonight's conversation is just going to be around what are some of the things that you guys are seeing that are common across the board, and then what's not common with these top agents and producers. And then also, you know what, we're going to inspire people to also get on this amazing list of our fellow colleagues that have been highlighted. So I'm going to give it off to Lance first. Lance, if you wouldn't mind kind of giving me just a little bit about what Real Producers is and then how you got involved.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having us, Ashley, and just so happy. Of course, Metrotex is near and dear to my heart. I've been a member of Metrotex since I started in this business. So always an honor to be associated and affiliated with anything, but particularly on this show. So thank you so much. So kind of the 30,000 foot view of Real Producers. It started in 2016 in Indianapolis. A guy named Remington Ramsey who started that, and it's now in over 150 markets across the country. As you mentioned, in Dallas, we have 4 publications now. We have North Dallas, Real Producers Dallas, North Fort Worth, and now we're launching Fort Worth in August. And all brought here by my partner, Jordan Espeseth, who is the founder of this community, who started this from nothing. He came here and he created a community just by connecting some of the best agents and the best businesses. And it's turned into kind of a movement, and a wave, if you will. If you notice, like in around February, when we announced who the top 500 are, there's a blue wave of Real Producer badges across Facebook that it's so exciting to see that. But I got involved as a partner, as an advertiser. I also Inspect 360, a home inspection company here in Dallas, Fort Worth. And he was meeting with top agents like we do. And they were talking about the businesses that they love to work with. And my company's name came up several times. And so he called me and said, hey, we're launching this publication. Agents are saying that they love working with you. Would you like to be part of this community and advertise in the magazine? And of course, I kind of arrogantly said, surprisingly, that, well, if they're talking about me, why do I need you? Right. And or maybe you want to, build a relationship outside of a home inspection, outside of a transaction. Maybe you want to meet other top agents. I'm like, well, that makes sense. I kind of was on the sidelines for about a month. And then I think I saw a photo of Jordan with one of the agents that we love and another home inspector. And I got a little bit of FOMO,
FOMO does it.
Jealous.
So I totally approached this with a scarcity mindset going, there's a fox in the hen house. I got to get over there and mark my territory. But the surprising thing was when I got in, I realized that number one, those other home inspectors became my colleagues, my friends. Yeah. It was way more collaborative. I guess the term is blue ocean, just a lot more generous, not a scarcity mentality. and that we were all trying to build a community of the best agents, the best realtors, and the best businesses that they work with. And so it ended up kind of pulling me into another direction. I started writing for the magazine as well. And when Jordan said that he was going to launch the Fort Worth side and invited me to participate in that as his partner, I was just so honored. So I always say it's kind of like the old Men's Hair Club commercial. I'm not just the owner, I'm a member, right? And pay off, right? So that's how I got into it. But it really is something that Jordan started here and has been amazing. Really, it's such a powerful community to be amongst the best of the best. And for me, it's a privilege. I get to sit down with them and hear their stories that are so compelling and share them with other agents. So it's pretty amazing.
Lance, that's fantastic. And I look forward to getting to know you more. You know, I'm on the North DFW side and we've crossed paths a little bit, but now, you know, getting to do this with you and hearing more stories about you and Julie, I'm just proud to be in the mix and proud to get to know you guys better. So Julie, of course, a lot of people know you in our business, a former superwoman for Super, but now you are the executive director. And as we were joking, that sky's the limit, but that also means you can direct a lot of things. So we'll see what that looks like. But you were just recently brought on to the team because of your superwoman talent. So what drew you to coming on board for Real Producers?
I was an advertiser for the last 4.5 years. I mean, I think Super came in on the 3rd publication, and we learned about it on a national level because Super was advertising in a different market. Mm-hmm. And Super brought it to us on the local level and said, hey, here's something called Real Producers. We didn't know anything about it. And this is something that we're considering. This is how it goes. This is how it works. What do you think about it? And so we had the power to decide what we wanted to do in the Dallas market. And of course, I was the one that was responsible for bringing Super to the Texas market. And so there was a lot of weight on my shoulders, if you will, about what would be the best business strategies here as I was boots on the ground. So after looking at what they were doing and what they were about, we said yes. And thank goodness we did, because I have to say, as a sales executive for the company of Super and being involved in the Real Producers community, it was hands down one of the best decisions we ever made for this market. So when life circumstances changed for me recently in December, my mom had a stroke. So I was having to really weigh the balances of this big, huge corporate job and all these responsibilities. By now I'm managing all of Texas and having my own sales territory, and the weight of the family dynamics and what was going on there. It just so happened that Real Producers approached me at the right time, and I'm sure with much intervention from above, and talked to me about this opportunity. And it was a no-brainer for me. The answer was yes, because I was already involved in the community. I knew what it meant to be not only a partner with Real Producers, but I got to see both sides of it. And yes, I wanted to be involved. It was an easy transition for me. I had already bought into the idea of Real Producers and how it influenced my business and Super's business on that level. So here I am, and now the executive director for them.
Well, I think that's fantastic, and wanted everybody to hear y'all's stories, because again, it's not about pay to play from the agent side, but as advertisers, you guys discussed that, you know, there's a lot of people that have great advertising budgets, but there is still a barrier to entry to get into this Real Producers family. And you guys both were advertisers and fit the bill, the mold of collaboration and a mindset of abundance. And like you said, Lance, those other inspectors became your colleagues and your friends and your cohorts. And I think, again, as agents, that can happen. I mean, we're supposed to be cooperative with one another and create this culture. And so for you guys to have been on one side and then help us create this community, especially now when the market's shifting and we need to rely on one another to disseminate good information and network together and do all these other things. We appreciate all that you're doing, but let's get into really what tonight's all about. And that's, let's discuss, let's good, the bad, and the ugly, because you guys have interacted with agents when you were affiliates or still affiliates that maybe aren't producing, and you saw what that looked like to be on the struggle bus of a realtor, and now being able to see and meet with people that are in this top 500 producers. Maybe let's talk about that first. The people that you encountered that aren't succeeding in this business. Let's talk about the negative stuff. What do you think was kind of a commonality there? The ones that can't get their business off the ground or have these really sharp peaks and valleys consistently throughout. Julie, I'll let you throw that out maybe first.
Yeah. First, I want to say that not everybody's goal is the same.
Yeah.
So when you have somebody that's selling 6 homes a year, 10 homes a year, they may not want to be the top producer. They may not be in this business because they want to do 20 million in volume. Maybe they're the housewife. Maybe they have another side hustle, and real estate is another side hustle. And it's just something that they're interested in, but that's not their true goal. So I would say when I see people that sell smaller amounts of volume or units on an annual basis, sometimes that's just not the goal that they have. The second thing is, I think sometimes people get into real estate because it's sexy. And they think, I can do this. I'm going to jump in. I can be a real estate agent too. What they don't realize is real estate is sales. Yep. You have to be a salesperson. And in order to be a good salesperson, you have to be a great connector. Are you a great connector? Are you the type of person that makes a great salesperson? And listen, we have a gamut of personalities. I interviewed somebody last week that was truly an introvert. And I sat across the table initially thinking, how did you get where you are? How did you grow your business being an introvert? But as I got to know the person, they were so warm and their personality was so rich. And then I discovered this is why people have an attraction to this person. But she was also very, very good at what she did. And she was a bulldog when it came to negotiations. And I can see why she's not only in the top 500, but the top 100 in her particular area. So I think it just depends on why people get into the industry and then what their goals are. They're not always the same.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Lance, what about you? You are not a newbie in this arena. And so you've seen probably a lot of people get into the business and out of the business just as quickly. What are some things that you've seen that are struggles for agents trying to get traction in this real estate market?
Well, as you guys probably know the numbers better than I do, but last count I heard there was like over 60,000 realtors in the DFW area, licensed. And, maybe half are doing production, any type of real production. So to be in the top 500 is pretty exceptional. And I will say, and of course I've taught for MetroTex for many, many years, taught home inspection courses and put on different events and seen a lot of realtors kind of come through that we're attending. And, I will say Julie nailed it. It's what was their goal? Why are they in it? Some are just in it for part-time. So when I see them, they're just getting their CE hours. They don't have anything better to do. The top producing agents, most of them weren't in my class because they had something better to do. They were working. So I think there is sort of an attitude of taking this seriously, treating it like a job, and showing up, every day, very intentional. I'll say that, I could probably talk more, we can talk about this later about what I see as the common thread between the top producing agents, but the ones that don't, I think it's a lot of reasons, but, it would sound judgmental. Some people just have it, they have that thing, but I will say that if somebody gets into this business and they don't have a great sphere of influence, they're fighting against a pretty heavy tide, because all the other things that they're competing against, the other people, are people that have those relationships that are so strong. And like Julie said, you can be an introvert, and it doesn't matter your personality. It's about your sphere that you have created and the people that you probably have helped along the way that have you built trust and you built relationships. Now, there's also those people that are total systems people, that rely heavily and they're just happy to get any paid, leads and things like that. And that works for them, and particularly if they're introverted and they want to, just do flat rate listings and different things like that. But what is cool is you start seeing that they figured something out. I think some folks just maybe have not figured out who they want to be yet as a realtor. And so that's a big part of it. I think real estate is one of those things that people get into because they don't know what they really want to do. And like Julie said, it's sexy and they get drawn into it. But it's really not who they are yet. Mm-hmm. And so it's maybe kind of coming to themselves. And when they get there, it takes off.
Well, yeah. And I think, go ahead, Julie.
I'm sorry, to piggyback off of what Lance just said, he's right on about that. And, I interviewed an agent earlier this week who said he did not do well his first year. He made 1 transaction. His second year, he made 2 transactions. His third year was kind of, guess what? 3 transactions. By the time he got to his 4th year, he had 15 transactions. And so I asked him, I said, what happened between year 1, 2, 3, and 4? He said, I never realized that I actually had to tell people that I did real estate. And he said he learned some statistics somewhere. I wish I could share it with you where he learned it, but it doesn't matter. The number is, he said, I learned somewhere that you have to tell people 25 to 27 times on average that you actually do real estate. He said, once I started telling my sphere of influence, like Lance was talking about, and my coworkers and my friends and my family, and they started telling people, he said, by the time the 4th year came around, I had 15 transactions that year, and it just took off. And it gave him the ability to quit his corporate job and to move into a place where he's now 155 in ranking in the Dallas area out of the top 500 because he started talking about it. And he joined the 5 a.m. club. If you're not aware of what the 5 a.m. club, it just means you get up and you get to your computer at 5 a.m.
I don't want to be a part of that club, Julie. So I rebuke that club at this point.
I could never do it without caffeine. Me and caffeine have to be friends. But a lot of people do. Now, listen, your 5 a.m. could look totally different. Maybe that means you're in the gym at 5 a.m., but you're doing something productive at 5 a.m. And for him, it was getting up, focusing on his systems and his processes, reaching out to people on Facebook, telling them that he did real estate, and then referring to other agents. So some of that too is just being green behind the ears. You don't know what to do. You just don't know what you don't know. And he said once he figured it out, his business was off and running.
That's what we always say. This is not the business to be the secret agent. So while that sounds like fun, that's not it. Like Sherry said, real estate is sexy for short term, also helps to drink. Sphere business is truly business, and for the long term professional. Sherry's also my mom and co-owner of Red Branch, so she knows at this point that I am going to have a cocktail in hand, but it benefits it all. But that's what we talked about, is that sphere business, that sphere of influence that you mentioned, Lance, and so did you, Julie. It is, for the most part, I mean, that's a recession-proof business model because it's based on relationships, not lead sources, cold lead sources. But that doesn't mean that doesn't work for some, really high-producing agents that do that. It just, it completely de-energizes me and my personality to sit there and cold call and get cold leads and do all those other things. So like you said, Lance, it's figuring out what your identity is, being authentic in this real estate business and figuring out where you're going to flourish and where that energy comes from. All right, OGP Stone, what a username. Lack of knowledge, strategy, lack of consistency, focus, and foundation. Speaking on what are those difference makers, and everything is different for somebody else. Like you said, Lance, some people are just systems people. They've hacked it, right? They've hacked what they need to do to continue to have a funnel of consistent leads and business coming in. But one size does not fit all.
No,
it's true.
And what, just to kind of even off of what Julie said about the 5 a.m. club, there's another great book, Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, and we've got one, Miracle Morning for Realtors. And just what OGP Stone said, knowledge. sometimes it's knowledge of self, so getting up and knowing yourself, because there's a great quote, and is it a John Maxwell or Jim Rohn? Julie, help me out. But your business grows to the extent that you do. Maybe that's a Gary Keller. I don't know. But it is that
somebody that knows what they're talking about.
It's a great one of those great
quotes. But so if you're growing, if you're investing in yourself and know yourself, you start realizing that you're going to attract people that that like to work with you, and that's it's sort of a place, I think, that some people are just kind of maturing, and they get to a place where they go, I know who I am. People want to work with them. So there's a little bit of that. I think that transition, there's just some teenage years that a lot of realtors get stuck in, of identity crisis a little bit. I mean, in any business, in anybody, it's not just real estate, but we see
entrepreneurs in general. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. So it's amazing though, when we sit down with these agents and you do see that, it could be that mom that just has been involved in PTA for years and knows everybody, that decides to get in real estate, and in 2 years she's in the top 500 because she's just built relationships and people trust her. And then you have somebody that's been in real estate for 30 years that has never done more than 5 million in a year, and that's okay. But it's sometimes it's just about them knowing themselves, and I think just that knowledge of yourself. And then taking that next step, strategy, and being consistent, and then focusing on those things that you're good at, and then probably leveraging the rest, and so that you can be you.
Well, and something that I want to touch on, because all the things that I'm hearing is patience. And I think that's something that realtors specifically don't have enough of. It's the adrenaline rush of going through their schoolwork, getting licensed. Now I'm licensed, waiting for the phone to ring. Right. I mean, the minute you do, not telling everybody what you're doing and building up to that. And I think people think that, okay, my phone's just going to start ringing because I got my license, and people are going to say, hey, I want to work with you. Real estate is a contact sport. And so if you're not consistently out there making contact with people, whatever that way is, they're not going to know. You go back to that secret agent business. But when we talk about new agents, we'll talk to new agents, and they're discussing, whether they want to come on to Red Branch, or maybe it's something through MetroTex. I always talk to them and say, okay, what does your support system look like? What are your expectations of the money that you need to curate from your real estate business? Let's talk about what that timeline looks like, because for some reason people think, I'm going to get licensed, I'm going to be a millionaire. It's going to happen overnight, and the green's just going to come. But I always liken it to like a restaurateur, somebody that's sitting there. If somebody's going to open a restaurant and they do it based on, hey, I get HelloFresh subscription boxes. My dinners look better than those cards. I think I can open a restaurant. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invest, and I'm going to open a restaurant. But you know what? You don't realize that it's not just about back of house in the kitchen. You have to have a line cook. You need to have front of house. You need to have marketing. You need to have menus. But imagine somebody sitting there saying, I don't feel like opening for breakfast tomorrow. I'm just going to open up for happy hour. And then the next day sitting there and saying, you know what? I'm not feeling dinner or happy hour tonight, so I'm just going to do breakfast and lunch. There's no consistency. That restaurant would fail because there's no expectation set or anything else. But for some reason in real estate, it can be jack of all trades, master of none, and no consistency in how they're approaching their business. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, so I mean, those are just the different things. And I think we've all been in it long enough to kind of see that kind of stuff. But let's talk about the good stuff that you guys get to do, because we've talked about some of these feel-good stories and everything else. Julie, what's one recently that really kind of gave you all the chills and the feels that you think is an inspiring story for people that are listening tonight?
There's so many. It's hard to just narrow down just one thing, but I can say one of the most inspiring stories. Let's go there. Yeah. One of the most inspiring stories is a man that is going to grace the cover of our October North Dallas publication. And I just love his story because this is about the resilience of the human spirit. And he just found himself in a place in life at an age where he should not have all of a sudden lost everything. And he did. We're talking no car, no house, just everything. And he was a missionary at the time as well, serving in his faith. And even had to give up the ministry part of his life, because he just all of a sudden became unfit to be able to have that position anymore. And it really had to take a step back, so much so that he wound up sleeping in his student's room, who was a missionary with him, right? He was over this child, if you will, man child, because he goes off to college. The kid goes off to college, and he winds up sleeping in his college student's room for shelter.
Wow.
And so he has to completely rebuild his life. Keep in mind, no car, no anything. And he said he got his license, kind of was feeling that pull based on another agent, another friend who was an agent in the business, JD Tomlin. And he said, called up his friend who was in the faith as well, and said, hey, I don't have any direction for my life. I don't know what to do. And JD said, I think you would be great at real estate. I think this is something you could do. I would mentor you. And he did. And it took him a few months to get on his feet. And he said one of the pivotal turning points for him was he was walking into a Keller Williams office at 7:00 in the morning to just go hit kind of that 5 a.m. or club. Just pounding, just doing whatever he had to do, making calls, getting his day prepared. And he said a car drove up and asked him, hey, do you work here? He said, yes, I do. And he said, I'm looking for a commercial real estate space. Can you help me? And this agent said, I can't. I don't specialize in commercial real estate, but I can refer you. So long story short, the guy approaches him a couple of months later and says, hey, thank you so much for the referral, fellow agent meaning. Just wanted you to know that commercial real estate deal went through, and you're going to get a commission check. Oh, great. Awesome. And the guy starts to walk off, and he decides to turn around and ask, hey, by the way, I'm just curious, what is the referral check going to be anyway? And it was $10,000.
Awesome.
This client had gone on to rent some bigger, commercial real estate space, and he winds up getting $10,000 in commission. And he said, from that day forward, everything about my life changed in an instant. And he just kept doing the rise and the grind, just getting up every morning, doing the system, doing the process, following the plan, following the model, doing what his mentors were telling him to do. And he went from ground zero, living in somebody else's bedroom, his student's bedroom, to pulling in over 60 million last year as a team, a very small team at that. And it didn't take long. I mean, we're talking about, a huge change like that in the last 5 years. So that's one of the most inspirational stories. But I will say that every time I get the opportunity to sit down and talk with an agent who is a high performer, they all have stories of how they got there. And I will tell you, almost 99% of the time, none of them started in real estate. They started somewhere else. They majored in something else. They had corporate jobs in other places and started in a completely different direction, and came for one reason or another to real estate. One lady told me the other day, she calls it the comeback career.
Yes.
I would always try and go do something else, and I would always come back, to real estate. And so she calls it the comeback career.
So, that is fantastic. Now, I will tell you, I am the wacko 1% that basically was raised in real estate, because my mother got her license when I was 15 years old. But you know what? That was her. She never, that wasn't her first career. And at that point was a stay-at-home mom and everything else, and wanted something different. And I watched my mom claw her way in her first full year in real estate to be the #1 rookie of her company. And so that was inspiring to me. So I think it's a little different when you have that type of example before you, but I think it was hysterical because my mother begged me not to get into real estate because of the inconsistency and to get a good, solid corporate job. So like any good daughter does, I rebelled against my mother and I got my real estate license. And so I do believe it's worked out well, but it's, there's been bumps and bruises. And I will say it's resilience, it's patience, but it's execution. And that's what it sounds like, Julie, that this gentleman did. He executed every day. He figured out what the plan was and he did it. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from meeting agents, sponsoring agents. We lost Lance. We'll get him back in a second.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of those things where it's just, they don't execute. The ones that don't succeed just don't do anything. Just get up and do it. So like Rehash Design Real Estate Group, having to learn how to be patient. It's rough because I'm new and don't have a sphere yet. You do have a sphere. I think that's the other thing too that people get stuck in is the sphere they think looks one way. There he is. It's like peekaboo, Lance.
Hello, Lancey.
Yes, yes. Oh, we lost him again. It's okay. But you do have a sphere. It just might look different, you know, maybe.
I mean, talk to everybody in the grocery store. Not everybody,
Yes.
but you know what I mean? Strike up conversations and the talking to your local cashier people at Walmart and Target and Costco and whatever. You do have a sphere of influence. You just don't recognize that you do. And, you know, ask for the same waiter over and over, the same waitress, the same coffee barista. Say hello, be very, very intentional. That's where you're going to build relationships. So if you think you don't have a sphere of influence, you really do. You just haven't opened your eyes to see that they've always been there. So like I said, ask for the same people, make it intentional to go by and see the same people over and over in the lines where you check out, see the same clerk at the shoe store, at the clothing store, go and visit those small business owners, same restaurants, introduce yourself to business owners, to restaurant owners, all that. That's your sphere of influence. And it can be very small right there in your own community. It doesn't have to be this huge piece of pie, or this whole pie rather. It could just be some of the pie, but you have one.
And I think that's the biggest thing is I think we put on this preconceived notion of what a sphere of influence looks like. That doesn't mean that people that are automatically just going to buy and sell real estate with you. You have to serve them though, and you have to tell them what you do, and you have to be intentional with building that trust and that relationship. There is no better compliment than having somebody that interacts on a daily basis, whether it's different realtors or something else that says, you know what, you've poured into me and I see how you behave and I see how you hold yourself and I trust you, and I trust you with the largest investment that I'm ever going to make. And that's what we do. I think people quantify, like there's dollar signs. And I can say this, being a realtor, I think we have a habit of looking in a room and putting dollar signs on people's faces. Instead of a target, it's a dollar sign. And that's just not the right way to do it. Lance, you said in the beginning, it was a scarcity mindset of, well, if agents are saying I'm great and, you know, all this other stuff, why do I need to spend money to advertise with you? You know, I'm already great. Well, that's not the right way, because that's not an attitude of abundance that you can continue to grow that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, just to kind of add on to what Julie was saying, you know, we do have the privilege every week to sit down with top agents, and the stories and you know, in the magazine, you know, we feature agents like this is Aaron Ken, great story. You can see he's got a fishing pole there. Does he look like he's trying to sell real estate right now? No. So the stories that we share are human interest stories. They're not advertorial. So we get to sit down and hear these stories, really the why behind what they do. You know, I'm going to be blunt. If you're receiving the magazine and you're in the magazine, everybody knows you're a badass. I'm sorry. You know, it's
love it.
So it's not a brag book because this is a pure magazine. It goes out to just those top 500 agents in that community and the business partners. So we get to really share the human side and these inspiring stories, just like Julie, you know, is sharing. And I'll have meeting after meeting, you know, several times a day. And by the end of the day, I'm so exhausted and I'm so wired up at the same time. It's that wonderful fatigue, you know, that I guess there's stress and eustress, right? So it's their distress and eustress. It's that good eustress that you like, man, what a day. But I know that, you know, we were talking about this the other day about you surround yourself, you know, you're the equivalent of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. If I continue to surround myself with these great, inspiring people, you know, then, you know, I might finally, you know, find a way to deserve my wife. I'll just put it that way.
You're smart. That means you outkicked your coverage, and that's what every man should absolutely strive for. Ed, I appreciate you, buddy. You know, I got your back and you've got mine. Ed is a fantastic
I love Ed.
Connector as well.
He is a great connector.
He is a great connector, and I love to serve with him in leadership at MetroTex. But I mean, it's all those things. And you brought up, I was talking to you guys about the 5+1, and that was a pivotal moment for me, because I think it's real easy for somebody to see me at this point and go, "Oh my gosh, Ashley is a producing agent, all these other things." Yeah, but I have worked my fanny off. And I can tell you right now, there was a time and a place where I'm sitting there going, how do I dig myself out of this ditch? What do I need to sell that's not nailed down? Because I don't want to quit real estate, but I have to completely upend my entire sphere of my life, all of these other things. We had personal things going on, professional changes. And I'm humble enough to sit there and say, like, that's a part of my story. And like you were saying, Julie, most of the people you interview have this story, because adversity, I think, is probably the biggest commonality in those that are super successful. They've experienced a lot of adversity in their life, whether it was a short period of time or a long period of time, because it creates a different style of hustle and grit. And so for me, who was in a mastermind group, and I'm sitting there with all these other agents who are producing, double digits, in millions on a yearly basis. And I'm sitting there going, I'm lucky to get to 2 million this year, but I had the buy-in from the person that was running the group. It was an affiliate partner of mine who poured into me when I did not have any business to give. And by the way, I'm going to send that out there. So that's Katie Thompson of Fair Texas Title. She is fantastic. No. And she looked at me and said, you know what, you're worth pouring into. And so I appreciate that and bringing me on that fold. But it was a group discussion of 5+1. You are the representation of the 5 people you most closely associate yourself with. And you are one relationship away from changing the entire trajectory of your life. And I think so many times we try to make it so complicated. Like, I need this grand plan to take myself out of the gutter and into the hopper. And instead it was just small bite-sized changes that I needed to do. Surround myself with people that were going to make me a better version of myself, not people that were going to commiserate with me. And so that's what I think. If you are somebody who's new in the business, maybe you're struggling in the business, who are you hanging out with? Yeah. Who are the colleagues? Iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
Ed is a producing broker. He is amazing. He hosts an amazing networking group that people go to. Ed has an attitude of abundance and will help any one of his realtor family and colleagues, even if they're, not in his, immediate brokerage or not. And that's what we have to get back to. But that one relationship that can change the entire trajectory of your life doesn't necessarily mean that's the person that is going to write that check for you. For that guy that you told the story of, he served him. He served him right by referring him to somebody else and not trying to take that client on, because that wouldn't have been the right thing to do. And he didn't have the professional competency to do commercial, but he served this gentleman. And in turn, he got paid for that. And I think if we go back to serving and creating value and providing value, those relationships will come. So yes, Sherry, amen. That's more of what we need to do. So, all right, let's talk about some more. Lance, Julie gave us a phenomenal a story. What's something else that's inspired you at meeting some of these awesome agents?
So many, I was just thinking about that intentionality and everything that you were talking about. And I love the underdog. I love the rising stars that we get to feature. Those are the agents that have, in their 2 or 3, 4 years have busted through to the top 500. And like, how do they do that?
Yeah.
Some of it is, a great sphere of influence that they've created. Some of it's just hard work. And some of it, they may have been, an agent for many years and they just got very intentional. And I love the story. Kelly Kellner, she's with JPAR, fantastic agent, beautiful. She and her husband, Mike, they also own K&M Roofing and Construction, great partners of ours and real producers. If you don't know them, you need to know them. But Kelly, really quickly this was the April issue. The lovely Sandy Cotton is on our cover, but we got to feature Kelly. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but she's just so fun and just
love the smile.
Yeah, like the wind's blowing her hat off and she's catching it. But so for I think it was like in 2018 or maybe 2020 she decided that she wanted to be in the top 500, right? And she started teaching vision board classes to other agents, just kind of sharing, putting that out there. And she put on her vision board. Here it is. Julie knows what I'm talking about. I get chills.
The chill bumps.
I get chills every time I tell the story. But she put on her vision board that she wanted to be in the top 500, and just this last year busted through to the top 500. And she was doing really well, but put that out there, and to put that on her vision board that she wanted to be in Real Producers. And so when I got to make that call for her to say, you're in the top 500 and we want to feature her, we both just cried. I was so excited. But that kind of intention was so cool, and that kind of focus and the things that she did. But she built an incredible network. She started they call the Northeast Homes Tour group that meets over in Keller, and it's bringing realtors together. She kept this thing going during COVID and everything else to help other agents connect and to continue growing and building and create educational opportunities. Just, kind of a very grassroots kind of a movement. But she built that helping people very intentionally. And of course, you can see that she just more and more built her influence. So love how she connected so many people. It really goes back to that connection thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's just so powerful. So that's one of the funnest stories, just recently, but all of them are inspiring, just near-death experiences and great systems, just waking up and literally, taking, the red book, the MREA, and following it verbatim and not doing anything else. And that works, So all these things you just find out is the people that are in the top 500 have somehow found themselves and found out what works for them. And they quit trying to be somebody else. Mm-hmm. They just really kind of self-actualized and found out who they were and their identity. And that started attracting other people. So their authenticity, their authentic self kind of really came through. To me, that is the most common denominator of all the agents that we meet. They are truly themselves. They're not trying to be anybody else anymore. And other people are now trying to be like them because they're in the top 500. They're all trying to be Ashley. Really?
Well, I appreciate that. And you know what? You'll find me probably 5 days a week in a sassy graphic t-shirt. I just might put a blazer over it or my workout, gear or whatever else. I even do it at the gym. I order more t-shirts because the front desk girl's like, oh my gosh, it just brings joy to my life to read your t-shirts every day. And so I'm like, fine, well, I got to get some new ones because you're seeing the same ones in rotation. And so now I'm buying t-shirts to actually serve and please the girl at Lifetime Fitness because I'm like, well, I want her day to be happy, right? I mean, so that's, my mother is probably laughing because she's like, oh, so that's why you're trying to expense your, graphic t-shirts. Cause I do feel like it's a marketing expense now at this point. And my favorite one, I told you about this, Julie, that I just got, it says not for everyone. And I think that's one for me that was just like a full circle moment.
I need that t-shirt.
Okay, send me your size. I think it's probably extra small anyway. So you just let me know and it'll show up at your doorstep. So, but for me, it was realizing that yes, Sherry said, oh my. Yes, she doesn't she's more of the CFO mindset. So every company takes the one that wants to be the abundance strategist, the growth person. And then she brings me down to, reality, but, but for me, it was realizing I didn't have to be that person for everyone. Yeah. I had to be my true authentic self, like you were talking about, Lance. And then I just had to be that best version of that person. And then everybody else that loves that person is never going to abandon me. And so I just amplified all those things. I discussed with you guys that the TRLP program, I'm going to tout that again through MetroTex, which is the leadership program that we do, is amazing. And I had people saying, why are you going to sit there and do a leadership program with fellow realtors? How are you going to make money that way? And I'm like, I don't know, but really cool people have done it and they are successfable, and success leaves clues. So I'm going to try.
Naughty 19. Naughty
there
19.
You go. Yeah. Heavyweight 28.
Lucky Lance.
Yes. So, Julie, we're going to have to get you into leadership just so you have a cool nickname. But yes, we'll figure it out. But for me, it was, I needed to figure out my identity again. Like I said, at some point it was, 1.8 million was my production. And then when I did leadership, I sat there and I was probably hovering around 4 million. And this was just a few years ago. And I'm sitting there with colleagues and I'm looking and I'm going, these people are making so much more money than me, but I want to learn and I want to be sharpened and I want to figure out who I am, not as just a realtor or a mom or a wife or a business owner, who Ashley is at this stage of my life. And so many of that negative loop that goes in your brain, that negative self-talk that just stays there from decades of experiences was, I'm too loud. I'm too intimidating. I need to tone it down. People don't like my presence. You know what? I'm not a petite lady. I'm 5'8" and not, as my mother says, I'm big boned, even though that's false. But just even my stature walking into a room was intimidating. And so always trying to be something for someone else. And I showed you guys, I carry around this card with me now. And it's an exercise we did. Yes. Christine Burke, heavyweight 28 in the house. That was pristine Christine. She is amazing and a very, very good friend now. But we walked around and we had this card. We each had our own card. And you walked around and everybody in the group, and there were like 28 of us that had to sit there and write something positive about you. And so I had this card and I looked at what everybody wrote about me from the class. Introverts, extroverts, realtors, affiliates, people that didn't know me pre-leadership, and we'd only known each other for a couple of days. And everything I thought about myself was the exact opposite. Your smile is infectious. When you walk into a room, you light it up. The minute we know we need to do something, we look at you because your sleeves are rolling up and we know you're going to be the first one in the front of the line to get things done. You inspire me. And that was such a paradigm shift for me to go, stop it. I'm the one that's stopping myself from growing. So, that was probably around 4 million. Then the next year I wanted to do 8 million. The next year I wanted to do 10 million. The next year my goal was, like 12 million. This year my goal is 20 million by myself. That is not with a team or anything else. And so I'm just here to say, like, you have to figure out how to create that paradigm shift. Surround yourself with those people that are going to inspire you to do better. And then consistency. I'm not doing anything different. I'm just being consistent. I'm being intentional and I'm serving my clients and my sphere of influence. And it will continue to grow. Rehash Design Real Estate Group. How does one take advantage of the leadership program? So we just actually started our new class. Next year you'll have an opportunity too, but MetroTex will go on to MetroTex and the great Oz that's in the background here, Dustin probably will find a link that will show you where you can look at it or sign up. But this is what it's all about. Get involved in the association. Lance was talking about how he's been a long time MetroTex affiliate. He's taught classes. He's done all of these other things. You can get involved in committee work. You can do, leadership work. But all of these things are just iron sharpening iron. Christine Burke, you can even take over a restaurant and get the orders rolling when the waiter loses it. Okay, so a funny story, what she's referencing is the fact that we went down to our overnight in Austin, and this is where we were going to talk with legislators and different things and realize that realtors aren't just about selling houses. We also advocate for individual property owners' rights and try to help our community. And so we had an overnight in Austin at the state capitol, and we were going to Aussie's, which is a really cool place. It's got an outdoor volleyball court, everything else. And there were 35 of us going in there, and we walked in, and the guy came in, we'd made a reservation, and he was so high off of marijuana.
Oh, no.
And he looked at us and he's like, oh, yeah, we don't have a reservation. And he just started laughing. And we're all standing there looking. And our amazing director of professional development, Roxy Glenn, who is very buttoned up and fantastic. You know her well, Lance, I'm sure. She just looked like the state of panic. In another life, as a side hustle, I did do a great job of bartending in a previous life. And so I just turned around and said, okay, we're going to seat everyone. I told everyone they had 3 options on the menu. I took a notepad and I walked around my esteemed colleagues and I told them what they could order or not order. And then we turned them in shifts. And so everybody got fed and got nourishment. But that's what it was. So that was my kind of leadership story.
Rolling up your sleeves, as they said.
Rolling up your sleeves. So
Wow.
so I know those are just the things that but I will tell you, some of my best friends came from leadership. And I don't know about you, Lance, if you
absolutely.
still have some of those great relationships as well.
Yep. Yeah. Lifelong. It was amazing kind of going through some of those experiences together. And it was at a time, I think it was 2008 or 9. So a slow time in the market where there were some great people in the class, because we were all kind of going, what do we do next? Or in this leadership group. So it was so much fun. Yeah. I could call on many of them anytime, any day. And they'd be there for me, and just turn into friends as well as business colleagues,
Well, we have about 10 minutes left. And I think that's synonymous with, we have this community with the leadership program through MetroTex, and that created a different community. And now that's what you guys are doing with Real Producers, is creating this other community with high producing agents that have these amazing stories. And you know what, when people are successful, they don't keep it close to them. They're willing to share their stories and share their success, because I'm sorry, what makes me special is me. So sharing some tools and resources with somebody else that's not me doesn't take away from me. Yeah. So I think talking, the last few minutes about what we can do to elevate people that are newer in the business, or maybe they've been in the business for a while and haven't scratched that peak production level that they want to set for themselves. And so having an opportunity and a mindset of abundance. Let's talk about some things that you guys think could probably help people achieve that status of scratching their way into that top 500 list. Lance, why don't you go first?
Yeah. So I think so many of the things you've already mentioned, it's getting involved to some extent, helping people. You're going to build trust and relationships. That's what this business is built on. If you don't have relationships, trusting relationships, you are going to be just relying on leads, maybe paid leads or something like that. And that's okay. But if you really want to influence and change people's lives and help them, and as you mentioned too, approaching people instead of with dollar signs, but as people that need help. Because right now, more than anything, particularly in the shifting market, people need professionals. They need professional realtors who know what's going on. A couple of months ago, you could just go, hey, look, we're going to put your house on the market. You go out of town this weekend, and then we will just review all of your offers on Monday, right? Now they're going to have to, agents and our clients are relying on us to provide really good information, because we're shifting into, now this more of a buyer's market, or at least we're in that weird limbo stage, right? So now agents are going to have to go to, which of course MetroTex is the best resource. They need data, they need information, they need to be able to go back and look at the market reports for the last few months to say, here's where it's headed, to show up with really good intelligence, studying any of the indicators, because they need our help. But see, you're going to have to step up your game as far as now getting into that educational side. It can't just be the sales side and saying we're going to put this out there. You're really going to have to educate and set expectations. So I think being very good at what you do, getting really good, using this time to become a professional and honing your craft, and then using that to build trust. Education is a great tool to build trust. That's how I built my inspection business, by teaching through MetroTex. And it was because of those opportunities to educate and empower people to make good decisions and help agents make good decisions, and educate their clients so that they could make good choices and stay out of trouble, buying a house that they maybe shouldn't have. So I think but building that network also of trusted professionals right now, I think is critical. If you can truly kind of get your team together of people that you trust. And that's why I love this community, the Real Producers community, the agents that we work with. All of our partners have been referred to us by top agents. It's the only way that you get invited into this group is if you're working with top agents, and you have to have a track record. we call them our vetted business partners.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you find though that when you become a vetted business partner, other agents, there's a trust in our community already.
Absolutely.
So other people go, well, if Ashley's using them, then they got to be good, you know. And so there's a lot of great referrals inside that community. So whether it's Real Producers or another community that you can be involved in, that you truly feel passionate about, that you can be your authentic self, get involved, and you'll be amazed at the influence that you're going to have and how that will then that kind of growth personally and professionally is going to help your business.
Like Sherry said, lifting someone up never brings anyone down. And we could all use a little bit more of that right now, personally and professionally. So from a professional standpoint, just try to lift somebody else up, connect them, serve them. And it's amazing what will come back to you in return when you do it selflessly and not with a monetary intent behind it. Sarah Maldonado, I love that, Julie. Connecting with others is everything. Warmth plus confidence makes that connection. And I think that's that same thing, is that go into it not with this preconceived notion of what you want out of it. Just those genuine connections are going to be life-changing. So Julie, I want to give you a couple of minutes as well. What are your thoughts, takeaways? I mean, of course, as the new executive director of all things DFW, Real Producers, leave us with some nuggets, some wisdom from Julie.
Well, first of all, I want to agree with Lance. And then I was just taking some notes here. And it's funny when I say that to my husband, he's like, oh my God, it's probably the only time you agree with me all day. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you, Lance. Yes. What he was saying about connecting in this community. I mean, you're in a room full of 500, well, not 500 all at once. You're in a community of 500 and in a room of hundreds, let's put it that way, of realtors that are in a sphere of influence in the events anyway. This is a time to ask for help. If you want to be on a different level, what's the first thing we want to do? We want to do self-help. We want to do self-growth. I don't know about y'all, but I'm on YouTube a lot, listening to motivational speeches, listening to people that I aspire to be, that I want to be. I want to think like them. That's the biggest thing for me, is I just want to think like them. I want to believe like them, and then find mentors that you can talk with. It's okay to be humble and to ask people for help. Oh my goodness. If there was, when I was in the home warranty business, if there was ever a home warranty rep that came to me and said, listen, the market is wacky in 2021 and home warranties are being left off of the contract and we're all really hurting around here. What's going on with your business? What are you doing? What are you seeing? I'm not going to tell the other home warranty rep. I'm so sorry. Let me plug in here. I got a notice that I'm about to die. I'm not going to tell the other home warranty rep that, listen, I'm not going to help you. I mean, nobody would say that, right? This is the same with the real estate industry. If somebody is going to humble themselves enough to come to you and ask for help, that's just the biggest thing I would encourage anybody to do that's listening today. Ask for help. Pick a mentor, whether it's in your office or it's outside of your office, somebody that you aspire to be. Follow them on social media, direct message them, tell them how much you admire them and what they're doing in their business, and ask for a coffee, ask for a chat. I remember, I'm really not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I am proud of one thing that I did. Well, maybe more than one thing, but one thing I was early in my 20s is I was an aspiring broadcaster to be an anchor and reporter. And I actually did that for about 16 years, but I really looked up to Clarice Tinsley, who's still, and I can't believe it, she's still on Fox 4 News today. And I called her up, and I'm a student at SMU. And I said, Clarice, I'm a student at SMU and I'm studying to be a broadcast journalist major. That's such a mouthful. And I just want to know if I can interview you and sit down with you for half an hour and ask you how you did it and where you came from and just kind of tell me a little bit about your story. And she said, yes. And I'm a student at SMU and I'm getting to interview Clarice Tinsley, who's been a long-standing famous face in our DFW Metroplex for so long. These people that I have met, and I know I can speak for Lance as well, the interviews that we've had, the agents that we've gotten the opportunity to meet are some of the kindest, most humble and yes, generous people that you could ever get to know. And I tell you what, this week I had one of the most amazing days. Tuesday was a day that I woke up that day and I was like, I don't know why, I just don't want to do today. And I'm sure that we can all relate. You wake up, you know, you have this huge schedule and this huge agenda in front of you, and you're just not feeling it. Like you don't have energy, or you didn't sleep the night before, or I don't know, whatever. Maybe your mindset's not in the right place. I don't know. For me, it was a lack of energy. And I was like, I just don't want to do today. Well, I start rolling into my day, and the first interview is fantastic. And I get charged and recharged off of the story that I'm listening to. And the second one is even more awesome. And the third one was even more awesome. And then I had a stranger walk up and sit, the true story, a stranger walk up to me in a coffee shop and sit down on the other side of the table and said, I didn't want to come to this coffee shop today, but I knew that I was supposed to, and I'm supposed to talk to you. And I was like, oh my goodness. I mean, the whole day, at the end of the day, I was like, this is amazing. So I just want to encourage any of you who are listening that are out there today, if you're not where you want to be, humble yourself, ask for help, find a mentor that you really love. And maybe it's you're out there, you know, as a solo fish trying to do this by yourself.Maybe you need to get on a team. Maybe you've been thinking about a team. Maybe you need to change brokerages because you're not getting the support that you need from that particular broker. And that's a factor as well. So that's my little Julie 101, chapter 43, whatever.
I love it. No, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. And I love this energy. This is what energizes me, is being able to have these discussions and very approachable, relatable conversations where we're just being raw and authentic. And so I'm just going to leave everybody with a couple of things. We got Rehash Design Real Estate Group. Your network is your net worth. That is a fantastic one. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of other sayings that I consistently kind of put in my mind. Mindset of abundance, not one of scarcity, right, Lance? Mm-hmm. So that's one. Be your authentic self. You know, figure out what drives you and what you're passionate about, because if you're passionate about what you do, you will never work a day in your life. And I will tell you, I have days where I do feel a little more sluggish, but I never begrudge what I do. And that is amazing. Success leaves clues. So that's that whole thing as far as your network. Get into a mastermind, plug one in. If you don't know where one is, create one. I did that myself 5 years ago. I didn't like the different networking models and everything else that were out there. So I created my own. Go do it. And the biggest one that I have to tell myself all the time is bet on yourself.
Yes.
Because if you're not willing to bet on yourself, no one else will. So hopefully we inspired you guys today. Look out for Julie and Lance. Hopefully you get a call from them sometime soon, or in February, like you guys talked about, being on that top 500 list. And you know what? Hopefully we can have you guys on here again. You are a wealth of knowledge. We appreciate all you do for our real estate community. And it's a privilege to be a part of the Real Producers family. And I look to grow with you guys more and do some awesome things together. So enjoy the rest of your evening.